Chapter 12, Medicine and Magic, found on page 91. Polynesia moved quietly. She slipped out of the tree and flew to the prison. Once again she entered the cell through the high window. All the animals were sitting quietly on the floor. They looked worried. It was scary, being back in the prison. Dr. Dolittle, however, was taking a nap. Polynesia cleared her throat until the doctor woke up. He sat up and rubbed the sleep from his eyes. "Listen," Polynesia said. "Chee-Chee and I have a plan. The prince is going to come see you tonight. I told him that you have magical powers. He wants you to turn him into a fairy tale hero." "Excuse me?" Dr. Dolittle cried. "How on earth will I do that? I'm a doctor. I know nothing about magic." "Dr. Dolittle is right," Dab-Dab said. "You can't just turn the prince into someone from a book. That's impossible." "Well," Polynesia continued, "I convinced the prince that it was true. I've already done my part. Now you need to do yours. Then when he offers a reward, you must ask to be set free." Dr. Dolittle sighed. "Very well," he said. "When will the prince be here?" "He is coming to see you after the sun sets," Polynesia replied. "Then I suppose I should get to work," he said. He took his notebook out of his pocket. "I have only a few hours to think of a plan." That night the prince visited the prison. He told the guards to wait by the door and stepped inside the cell. He felt nervous talking to the great Dr. Dolittle, but tried to sound strong. "Good evening, Doctor," he said. "The Queen of the Fairies said I should speak to you. She said you could help me." "Of course," Dr. Dolittle said. "I'll do whatever I can." The doctor sounded as kind and helpful as always. He could not even pretend to be mean. "I love to read," the prince said. "I read all the time. It's my favorite thing to do. But there's never anyone in the stories like me. They wear fancy clothes. They all have blonde hair and blue eyes. They all have horses and fight dragons." "I see," Dr. Dolittle said. "You would like to be like the people in the stories." "Yes, exactly," the prince said. "You do know that it's very hard to be happy when you try to be someone that you're not," Dr. Dolittle said. "I know what I want," the prince said. "I want to be like a hero in a fairy tale." "Very well, then," the doctor said. "You will have to excuse me for a moment. I need to mix together some medicine. We'll need a special potion." Dr. Dolittle turned to his medicine bag. He took out different bottles. He poured some into a bowl and mixed them up. This was not real medicine. Polynesia had spent the afternoon gathering water for him. When he was finished mixing, he turned back to the prince. "You must drink this quickly," he said. "Try to drink it all in 3 gulps." The prince took the bowl and did exactly as Dr. Dolittle asked. "How are you feeling?" Dr. Dolittle asked. "I don't know," the prince stuttered. "I don't really know if I feel anything." Just then Jip started to bark. He stood in front of the prince and barked up at him. The prince stepped back. "What is wrong with your dog?" Then Dab-Dab started to quack. Tutu hooted at the prince. "Goodness me!" Dr. Dolittle exclaimed. "The potion is working quickly." "Really?" the prince said. "Do you have a mirror?" "No, I'm sorry," Dr. Dolittle said. "We don't have a mirror." "But how will I know what has happened? I need to see for myself." "Well, look at all the animals. They seem very upset. Something incredible must be happening. Everyone knows that animals don't lie." The prince looked at all the animals. They were certainly very excited. He looked back at the doctor. "Could you describe me then?" "Of course," Dr. Dolittle said. "You are much taller. You look just like someone who could fight a dragon." "But what do I look like?" the prince said. "Am I blonde with blue eyes?" "You look like a hero in the fairy tales," the doctor said. "Then I must be tall and blonde," the prince insisted. "There are many different kinds of heroes," Dr. Dolittle said. The prince was very happy. He was certain he was exactly as he imagined. "How can I thank you?" he said. "You could let us go free," the doctor said. "It is not good for my animals to be locked up like this." "Of course," the prince said. "I'll tell the guards to let you go right away." Tutu cleared his throat. Jip nudged the doctor's leg to remind him. "Oh, yes," the doctor said. "We'll also need a boat. We need to get home as soon as possible." "I can do that as well," the prince said. He moved toward the door. "Wait," Dr. Dolittle said. "There's one more thing. You must stay indoors for at least 3 hours. No moonlight or wind should touch you. Otherwise, the spell won't work." "Oh, thank you," the prince said. "I'm glad you warned me." The prince went to the door and opened it just a crack. He stood back so no moonlight would fall on him. The guards could not see him from behind the door. "Guards," he called, "I give permission to set these prisoners free. You must escort them to the sea. They will be taking one of your boats. Please make sure they leave safely." "But the king," one of the guards said, "he won't be happy if they are gone." "I'll worry about my father," the prince said. "Now do as I say and take them to the water." The guards did as they were told. Dr. Dolittle and the animals followed them to the sea. The guards pointed to a boat. "You can take that one," a guard said. "We have to go get back to the prison now. We don't have time to help you on board." "That's all right," Dr. Dolittle said. "We thank you for bringing us here." Once the guards had left, all the animals sighed. "That was a good plan," Gub Gub said. "The prince really believed that Jip was upset." "How do you think to trick him like that?" Tutu asked. "How do you know he would believe you?" "He wanted to believe it was true. I knew we only had to pretend, and he would believe us." "It was very clever of you," Polynesia said. "I rather wish I had thought of it." "Well, as any good doctor knows," Dr. Dolittle said, "sometimes common sense is the best medicine." Before Dr. Dolittle and the animals went on the boat, they had to say goodbye. Chee-Chee, Polynesia, and the crocodile had decided to stay in Africa. They loved living with the doctor in Puddleby, but they missed their families too much. It'd be hard to leave them again. It was a sad time for everyone. Dr. Dolittle, Jip, Gub Gub, Dab Dab the white mouse, the Push-Me-Pull-You, and Tutu the owl went on the boat. They looked back to the shore and waved to their friends. There was a flutter in the trees. Everyone looked toward the jungle. There was a full moon that night, so they could see clearly. Suddenly, thousands of swallows flew into the sky. "I had no idea that we had been in Africa for so long," said Dr. Dolittle. "It will be nearly summer when we get home. These must be the swallows who are going back." "How kind of you to wait for us," he called to the birds. "We are heading north now. It would help to have you lead us." So the boat set sail. Dr. Dolittle and his animals stood at the railing. They waved to the friends on shore. Chee-Chee, Polynesia, and the crocodile called goodbye until their throats were sore. The doctor had promised that he would spend his vacations back in Africa with his friends, but it was still a sad moment, and they all cried bitter tears. End of chapter 12, page 101.